There's still these old traditional songs that have become traditional, anyhow, that we kind of yearn for when we celebrate the 4th of July or anything else. I think that's a big part of it. And I think people like Sheila Kay and Bobby McMillan and those folks who grew up with the music, they're kind of the last, I think, of people who grew up in what Bascom called the last stand of the natural people. You know, I love that, what he felt about them, that they were somehow different. They were a holdover from the past and kept us connected to the old world, which had engendered these ballads and songs. And not that he didn't appreciate all the American ballads, Jesse James and all these other things, but he wasn't very much interested in, I guess, modern music, although he did, you know, write some songs that I'm sure he hoped would make him remembered, you know. And certainly that good old Mountain View, although most people don't really believe he wrote it, you know, they somehow think of it as being a folk song. But I did some study of that and comparing it with Northern Ireland and Mountain Dew and what they talked about. And I think Bascom wrote it, and probably the tune as well. I've even talked with some Irish singers about that. Yeah, he liked those parodies. I think he was always tied to Western North Carolina, not much about Kentucky or anything except Ples Mobley. He was about the only person out of Kentucky well, Sarah Gertrude, but that's different. I don't know. It's I think the nostalgia factor in country music and maybe in a lot of the other music, people, you know, artists keep covering these old songs again, and Willie Nelson certainly made a lot of money off of Blue Eyes Crying in the Rain and all these other composed songs that it. And Renfrew Valley, I think, has existed partly trailing Nashville by 10 or 15 years, and with artists that sing the songs of yesteryear, as Lair was that Sunday morning gathering. You should do that, you should go to that, because it was usually thematic, you know. It would be about all the crops that grew, or spring and summer and fall, and Decoration Day, and all kinds of things like that, that he really, with his voice, you know, he would play on these things that were from the past. And I think he saw this all submitting us to the past and the importance of the values and everything in the past.
Stir?
Well, I think, yeah, sure, there would have been a connection there. Actually, country music or radio, when radio came in the early 20s, they really didn't know what to do with it. It was a novelty, and they didn't have a whole lot to play on it. WLS had an organist, Ralph Waldo Emerson was the organist there, and I mean, a descendant or a namesake, and Kate Smith and a lot of these people were singing as well, so there were orchestras and there were all kinds of music. But when country music kind of blossomed, they had to start writing things, but until they did that, they played The Old Hen Cackled and The Little Old Log Cabin in the Lane and Barbary Allen and all these other things, and people, but there was a hunger for that, of hearing something from the past, I think, especially for people who had become urbanized and had left the farm and the rural areas and were doing what people have always done, finding a better life for themselves and everything, but nevertheless having this connection with the past. And I think we still have some of that today with country music and bluegrass music, and the comedy shows, even what I think is pretty terrible comedy, the blue collar thing, and redneck humor, which is really making fun of these kinds of people rather than seeing any nobility with them, I think. And yet there are people who want some connection with that. Maybe they did come from that and now they've made it and they're yuppies and they've got money in the bank, but they still want to go on weekends and put on their bill caps and sit out there and clap and have a good time with this music. And maybe it says something about how they have progressed away from this kind of culture, but maybe there's something deeper than. Okay, all right.